All right, quick bit of housekeeping before we start the episode. The Spoily Awards are coming up. What are the Spoilies, you're asking?
They are our totally real and not bogus awards for everything we reviewed here in the last year is up potentially for an award. We did nominations, and if you're curious how that process works, boy, we've got a whole episode about that for you.
Yeah, you can listen to that.
A very, very long episode, or we also have a short one that you can just go and listen to the nominations right now and, you know, just kind of make your own decisions.
Exactly.
Which is important because this is all about you, the listener, having a voice. No backroom deals with old men smoking cigars going on this episode. No,
that's a reference to the Oscars, right?
Yeah, totally.
Okay. It almost sounds like that's how we normally do stuff here.
This whole room's filled. I can't even see Ryan. There's so much cigar smoking.
No,
here.
so yeah, everybody gets a vote, and at the end we'll tally it, and we'll have the winners. On March 10th is when we're going to have the Spoily Awards. It'll be a YouTube video and a normal podcast episode. So, but right now through March 1st, you can vote in the Spoilies. So go to our website, spoilersintendedpodcast.com. On social, we got links to it in the Discord. On our Patreon. Any way that you can contact us, we have posted the Spoily Awards.
In this episode description, there's a link.
There is, yes. So vote in the Spoilies now. Let's start the episode.
The plot? There wasn't one.
There's definitely a plot. Things happen.
The characters, stupid and shallow.
No? What? What are we even talking about here?
Why I watched it to the end? Hope that beats eternal.
Hope that the movie would be better? What was I hoping for?
That is a 1-star review from IMDb. Hello and welcome. We are Spoilers Intended, a podcast about series and films. I'm Steven, joined as always by Andrew.
Hello.
And Ryan.
I want all of this podcast, no matter how bad it is, forever, always.
All right,
it's raining around me and I'm very emotional.
One hopeless romantic confirmed. So, the 1-star review didn't give away a whole lot, but we are reviewing The Notebook.
The Notebook! This is the capstone to Romance Month.
This is Love Month.
Romance Month.
Love Month.
Love Month.
It's like the Love Boat, but it's a whole month.
The Love Month.
This is the 2004 film that set every woman's expectations of men far too high.
Not high enough, I say.
So let's kick this off. Little information here.
Let's go.
The story, an elderly man reads to a woman with dementia the story of two young lovers whose romance is threatened by the difference in their respective social classes. This is a tale as old as time.
Tale as old as time.
So this is directed by Nick Cassavetes.
What has he done elsewhere?
So he's done My Sister's Keeper.
Okay.
Which is a film at least whose name I recognize. He did John Q.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he's also the son of director John Cassavetes.
Okay. I think I'm thinking of John Cassavetes.
Yeah, I was going to say, because he's an older, obviously older director, but Ryan would probably recognize. I can't remember. I didn't take good notes on that one.
I just know the
knew
name. I can't recall.
Yeah.
So
go ahead.
So the writing credits on this are Jeremy Levin, Jan Sardi, and then also Nicholas Sparks. This is adapted from his novel of the same name.
Nicky Sparks.
Okay. Yeah, this is one of the three.
What other Nicholas Sparks?
The Fault in Our Stars.
Oh, yeah,
and,
that one.
Was it the one with Keanu Reeves and the mailbox thing? Was that him?
No. It had didn't have J-Law in it. Starts with a
Silver Linings Playbook?
Yeah, that's his,
one?
I think.
Okay.
But yeah, The Fault in Our Stars is a fantastic movie.
All his stuff's just at the end is just depressing.
It is, yeah. It's just sadness.
This is what real romance is: depression. So music by Aaron Zigman.
A name I had literally never heard of before.
He has a pretty hefty filmography, but a lot I don't recognize.
It's like a lot of probably like romance, maybe.
No, not really. So
Hallmark movies?
He worked.
Ouch.
This is so The Notebook.
The Notebook is not a Hallmark movie.
Ouch.
The Notebook and like Sweet Home Alabama are like the precursors to the great Hallmark moving of the 2010s.
Yes.
The Hallmark moving.
Yes.
I will say I actually do like Sweet Home Alabama.
I do too, unironically. It's not bad.
It's not a bad movie.
So he worked on Alpha Dog with Nick Cassavetes as well, somewhere in the past. So they have worked together in the past.
Okay.
So this movie stars Ryan Gosling, Rachel McAdams, James Garner, and Gina Rowlands.
Yeah, it's a really small cast,
Yeah,
but I think you kind of need it to be for a film like this.
Yeah.
So fun fact, Gina Rowlands is Nick Cassavetes' mother.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
That's...
Got her.
How does that? What a bizarre moment to direct your mother in a film like this,
where she has dementia and
what a personal.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to go. Obviously it's been 2 decades since this came out. I don't want to go look up and read where like she died of dementia. I don't want to see that because I don't want to think about.
Do you think it was a situation where it was like he's got this movie and she's like, "You're going to cast me, right?" And he's like, "Well, I mean, we're going to have like the casting call," and she's like, "Nick."
Son,
Nicholas, and he's like,
I raised you.
"Well, I mean, we could probably find you a part, Nicholas." Or was it the other way where he's like, "Mom, I've got a movie, but I can't get someone to play this part." And she's like, "I'm not doing this for you. I have my own career and my own goals. Get out of here. You didn't finish your food. Mom, be in my movie."
He's like 35.
She did a fantastic job.
So yeah, it was not like it was a Nepo maneuver, a reverse Nepo maneuver.
Reverse Nepo.
So this was made for a budget of $29 million. You do wonder, did he pay his mother anything or not? I don't know. Box
You want me to
Yeah, I was gonna
visit?
say,
You have
I
to
have
come
a
see me on
feeling
set.
This made well over its budget.
Yeah, box office of $118 million worldwide.
Okay. That's actually less than I was expecting it to be.
Well, it's one of those things where this type of movie, right, especially when you look at an overseas market, because it relies on a good translation, you're not guaranteed. It's not like an action film. You don't necessarily have to know every word they say.
That is true.
It's kind of important here to understand what the conversations are.
I do feel like too, it's very American.
It's a very American
also,
film.
yeah, post World War II America is like as America gets kind of thing. So, but yeah, so let's break into some spoiler-free thoughts here from y'all.
Yeah.
And now this was both of your first time seeing this film.
Yeah,
Yes.
I have been aware of this movie, obviously.
Oh yeah, it's very hard to not at least know that
especially
it existed.
growing up around, because I was a junior in high school whenever this came out.
Gosh, you baby.
And
Right over here just shaking his head.
you guys aren't that much older than me, just by the way.
I was a junior in college.
I was a junior in college. That's 4 years.
That sounds like a significant gap.
I was probably held
It's
back
re-
a grade or
it's
two.
really
Who knows?
not- it's
Who's
really not
keeping
that
track?
Tennessee education.
Yeah,
you never know.
Exactly.
Yeah, this was definitely my first time seeing it, like just ever. But I was very aware of it. I knew that Ryan Gosling and Rachel McAdams were in it. Sure. But I didn't know anything about the story. I knew nothing about like the time period it even took place in.
Cold turkey. You didn't know how it
just
worked.
went straight in.
All
feel
you
like I
saw
knew
was
the
the
time
image
period.
of them like kissing in the rain, and that was it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Which
That's
that could
it.
happen at any point. That could be happening right now in Central Park for all you know. I just don't know.
It could be happening outside our front door. Let's go look.
It is raining.
It is raining.
I know. Yeah, Andrew, what are your thoughts?
I actually okay. So like, I love just like romance.
I was gonna say, put a caveat on this. Andrew likes to cry.
Yeah, I do, but I love just romance, melodrama. That like, it's definitely one of those kind of like subgenres of like film and TV shows and stuff like that. That I don't know, I just like it.
Yeah,
and I love this movie.
Really?
But in going into it like completely cold and having no idea like what I was about to watch.
Yeah,
like a lot of the stuff I was like, oh, I like this. Like it kind of like. Steered, and it was very predictable. I knew exactly what was going to happen.
Sure, yeah.
But I think that's fine because it didn't bother me that I knew, where everything
the plot was going.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where like once you think you know what the plot is, if the plot veers off into something you didn't expect, it's a binary thing. It's either great and amazing because they pulled one over you, or it's terrible because you hit it and you're like, well, this is way worse than where I thought we were going to go.
Well, and at the end of the film, which we'll get to in spoilers, but at the end of the film, I thought it was going to end at a specific spot, and then it kept going, and I was like, oh, we're just
wait,
okay,
there's
cool,
more.
Depression, got it.
yeah. There's a whole other scene that I was like, oh, I thought credits were about to hit. Oh
man.
Oh.
When we get into spoilers, I've got a story about the first time I saw this film.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, honestly, I really liked it. I thought Rachel McAdams and Ryan Gosling did a fantastic job. Just because they really sold Ryan Gosling specifically sold just how like haunted he was by this one girl.
Yeah.
Essentially, like, and just, not obsessed over her, but in the sense of like, he knew that was the girl.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Touched him inside.
Yeah, I like that
it.
level of romance that spans, decades worth of time, and especially like in between, World War II, because it starts at the beginning of World War II. Or
It starts
right
in the late 30s.
Yeah, in the late 30s, and then it skips a little bit past that, and
it goes way beyond that.
I love those kind of romance stories, and I thought it was fantastic.
I liked it a lot. I don't know if I'd say I loved it, but I definitely enjoed this way more than I thought. I kind of went into it, and maybe it's
my
trepidation,
not
trepidation, just like this is gonna be cheesy.
Here we go. All right. Here we go. Turn on the Hallmark
and it was
movie.
to a degree.
Yeah,
like,
it
it's
is.
still melodramatic, and you're right. Like you can kind of see where the plot's going. It's not like it's a full of twists, but it doesn't need to be. Like it's to me, it reminds me of like when you watch like just a simple, straightforward action movie, and it's just good action, and you're just like, I just enjoy this.
Yeah,
this is just a good, straightforward, melodramatic romance, and you're just like, I like this.
Yeah, there's nothing like that's too unrealistic for the time period and like the stuff that happens in it, where it's like, we know he's going to go to war, we know that she's probably going to find someone else. Like that's those are plot beats that just happen in these stories,
but they still did it in a good way.
Yeah, the beats feel very organic, like things that would have been happening in that time period.
Yeah,
right.
So
I wrote down. I have like my notes I took. I just did like a stream of thought during the
while you're watching.
I just and one of them I put down is like, I can't tell if they're acting bad early in the movie or if they're just nailing how awkward teenagers can be. And I think it's the latter. I think they nailed in those like opening scenes how like weird and awkward teenagers are.
I have so much trivia. Not really. I have the best
Some
trivia is a chunk about roughly this kind of thing going on.
Yeah.
Here. But I'm gonna save it. I'll keep it close.
But yeah, only other things I would say is just like, there's a lot of really good scenes in this. I think
and some very iconic, just like romance scenes.
Yeah.
And granted, like a lot of these scenes have been done well before this.
So,
it's like,
a lot of the 1 stars I looked at basically just accused it of
like copying other
off.
stuff.
This is just Titanic.
this is
not
whatever.
on a boat, stuff like that, right?
There's definitely no sinking of any boats in this film.
Can confirm.
Can
That's
confirm.
one free spoiler. No boats sink in this film.
But they are on a boat at least once.
The one thing I did kind of notice that like it isn't really a ding to the movie, but is like a thing I noticed was that, and this isn't a spoiler because it says it in the description. Like we're in modern times.
Yes,
reading
Princess Bride.
Yeah, a journal, and then we go back. It felt to me like some of the modern stuff was shot like by a B unit. And like the camera work looks different.
Much. Yeah, I can see that.
It didn't look the same.
Yeah, it didn't have the same sheen, I guess. The best way I can put it.
To me, I like that because once you really get into the story, right, the modern time stuff is real life, what's happening, and then the past has the rose tinted glasses, the golden glow about it.
Sure,
I think that's kind of a good point.
I think I like that actually, where this is the modern is raw and real, and then we get into this and it's got that lovely reminiscence of
the rose colored glasses,
more sweeping shots.
Yeah.
Okay, now that actually makes sense. Now that
I don't know that was deliberate. I'm not saying it was, but if it was, then kudos.
I'll definitely say James Garner as the older. Just like the older man that's reading the story, like he
kills it. He kills it. Yeah,
destroys that role.
Well, and
was his name Duke? They called him, but it's actually
Noah.
Well, Noah's the actual name, but they call him Duke. I think.
Yeah, they call him Duke.
Because you're not supposed to know that it's him.
Yeah, you're just giving away spoilers here. Gosh.
It's pretty obvious.
It's pretty freaking obvious in the first like 5 minutes.
Spoiler. And like he kills it. I think Gina Rowland kills it.
Yes.
The 4 main pieces of the couple, I think all kill it. They all have good chemistry together. They all work well.
Yeah.
It's believable through.
And even the supporting cast, like James Marsden, who plays basically like the love interest, he does a really good job. Joanne Allen, the mother, I think. Is that the mother?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
She actually does really good.
She starts off the movie and you think she's one type of character. And then by the end...
that's my favorite bit.
That's a good twist.
Great twist.
Hold on to these things.
I know.
It does have a great piece towards the end where you're like, whoa, like I didn't expect to suddenly understand this woman.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not getting into it. I'm like, but I'm just saying, like, she as a character, I at first she's one type, and at the end you're like,
oh, okay,
man.
yes, this
like
person.
who plays Noah's dad? Because I loved his character. He's such a perfect archetype.
I've seen him in a bunch of stuff. He's a character actor.
Yeah. David Thornton. Thornton.
Yeah. I don't recognize the name, but
he's been in a bunch of stuff.
But like he does a really good job of being that kind of the outgoing dad. Who, like they show up on the porch like, oh, you didn't tell me she's this pretty.
You're thinking the other dad.
I'm thinking Noah's dad, not her dad.
I think Sam Shepard.
Okay,
Frank Calhoun.
That's a more recognizable name.
Yeah. Sam Shepard is his dad.
Yeah.
Her dad is David Thornton.
Yeah, I mean he was good too, but I'm really thinking about.
Yeah, no, he did a fantastic job.
But yeah, I mean, overall, it was fun to rewatch it. So I got a question.
You've seen it multiple times, right? Before this?
Well, this is only the second time I've seen it.
Second time, okay.
So I got a question for y'all. Did you watch this with your wives?
Yes.
No.
Okay, so we have like the perfect spectrum. So Holly watched it the whole way through.
Yes.
Ryan's wife didn't watch it at all.
So I was like, hey, I'm about to watch The Notebook. Do you want to watch this? And she goes, no, I've heard terrible things. I'm straight. And I go, okay. And so I went downstairs and I watched it with her. And she heard me exclaim a few times at certain parts of the story. And I basically came upstairs and gave her the full rundown of the story. I'm like, so here's what happens.
Because my wife watched the first 30 minutes and then got up and left. She's like, no, this is not for me.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So for me, like, I mean, like, I cried like a baby at the end of this.
Of course you did. Of course you did,
Andrew.
But and up until that point, I was like perfectly fine. And then like extra stuff happens after the fact that I thought the movie was going to end.
It was going to be over.
And I was like, oh no, this is not where I want this to go. And then like as the credits are rolling, I'm like, oh no.
You're gonna love my story. I think you've probably heard it before in the past, but I don't think Ryan's ever heard it.
Probably not.
So having watched this now for the first time and seems like we enjoyed it. Do we recommend this? Is this
absolutely
is this something that you would say?
I would definitely recommend this to someone that just wants like a heavy melodrama.
They want to get in there and wallow in it. Yeah. And I think it's also a really good period piece.
I think so too.
Its reposition of late 30s into the 40s, etc. Like you have good music that fits the period. You have good like the cars driving around. Everything looks like it should be from that era. So
it really does.
Well done.
Yeah.
No, I would recommend this especially to anybody who, if you're in the mood for like a romantic movie and you've never
it's
seen
love
it.
month. I mean, you're like, I need a lovely movie.
And it's one of those things where like it really wears its heart on the sleeve. Like it knows exactly what it is. And
unapologetically.
Unapologetically. And that's a good thing for this. And it's definitely one of those where like, you know, if you're an easy crier like me, like you will cry. Like there's nothing, you can't stop that.
Right, but I think you got to meet this movie on its own terms. You can't come into this expecting some kind of revolutionary plot twist.
Well, part of the issue too is like I've said, it's kind of almost like a Hallmark prototype movie in some ways. Like this is what other romance movies aspire to be. So pieces of this are going to show up.
Yeah, because whenever this came out, like it was like so big in like just like the pop culture of the time.
Yeah, it was not quite the next Titanic, because I remember when Titanic came out.
Titanic was a whole different.
I knew girls who saw the film like 6 times in theater. Right,
that's a lot of screen time.
Miserable. That sounds
that's a lot of
miserable.
You haven't even seen the movie.
That's why it sounds miserable.
You've never seen Titanic?
No.
What?
The boat sinks.
There's so much more than that.
Yeah, the
Billy
movie's
Zane's in it.
Pretty fantastic. Anyways.
All right, listen. Instead of taking a little boat ride around a bunch of ducks, why don't you take a boat ride through content? We got as much content as they had ducks in this movie, okay?
That's actually maybe true.
That's actually probably
close. Not. There's a lot of ducks.
There's a lot of ducks.
If you want to swim through our content or row a boat through it, go to spoilersintendedpodcast.com.
And on there, we have links to things like our socials, Patreon, and Discord. If you want to join in the discussion with us and other listeners of the show, we've got channels in there where we talk about recent releases, movie news, hobbies. I want to see your pets, what you're cooking. We got spoiler threads, too, where we can discuss other films and TV series spoiler-free for the rest of the people in the Discord.
Yeah, and we also have 2 socials. We have Instagram and Facebook. You should absolutely toss us a like and a follow. That's where all of our, upcoming episodes and stuff kind of get posted. We'd love for you to toss us a like and a share. Really appreciate it.
what a jam! Like,
I could listen to this kind of music all day.
When you're in the right mood for it, like big band and swing and jazz just hits on a certain level.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
All right. Well, we are beyond the spoiler wall. We have time skipped forward.
We rowed our boat past the levee of the spoiler
through the wall of ducks.
Yes.
That's a lot of ducks.
It is actually.
What a power play.
What's funny is I was looking for trivia about the ducks. I was like, well, where did they get that? I didn't see anything about it.
Did they just happen upon ducks?
Yeah.
And he's like, this is the shot.
This is the shot. Or is it in the book? And they were like, some poor PA is like, I need you to get 2,000 ducks here.
I need 6,000 ducks for this one scene.
Like someone else, while I'm doing some trivia, if you want to do some Googling, I want one of y'all to also try and find info on the duck because it really intrigues me. Like, did they just have them? I don't understand.
I don't know.
Did they just go to a farm like, yo, can we borrow your ducks for a day? So other trivia, I did mention it pre-spoiler wall, but when they filmed this, right? So all of the post-World War II shots of Gosling and McAdams were done first.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So
he had the beard.
He had the beard.
He had all that.
Right. So when they finished these shots, he had to shave the beard and lose like 30 pounds that he had added just to kind of look like a lean youth.
Yeah.
So when they were filming these scenes, Gosling and McAdams did not get along.
Really?
They did not.
Yeah, I actually vaguely remember
the chemistry was terrible. Gosling went to the director and was like, "You have to fire her."
Oh my God!
Right?
I would have never believed it. Like they have such good chemistry on screen.
So the crazy thing is, Nick Cassavetes sat them both down and had an airing of grievances. It's like, I'm not firing you. I'm not firing you. You're both in this. You got to figure this out.
Yeah.
And they worked it out so well that they dated for 2 years after the film.
I was going to say, didn't they date after this?
So I do think that
therapy works is what you're saying.
apparently, or this guy missed his real calling.
He's got like a couch and he sits across from him with a notepad and you feel like she disrespected you because she didn't see you. He's like writing stuff down. Wow.
But yeah, so I thought that was really interesting because I do think you mentioned, well, the way they get along when they're younger. Yeah. Sometimes it's like, I don't know if this is supposed to be a teenager or if it was like they were more
in tune to it.
The chemistry is more in line because especially the later era interactions of them, they're both very angry at each other for most of it.
There's a lot of that.
So it kind of works for them to not have chemistry there because they're just mad at each other.
Yeah. Interesting.
Andrew, report back on the ducks.
Okay, so
duck update.
Duck check-in.
This is not. I'm just going to read it. So the crew raised the swans.
Those aren't swans; they're ducks.
Maybe they were swans. I don't know.
They were ducks.
Some kind of
that's
white bird.
Thing. Like, I mean, yeah, okay. That just may be something with the page.
The crew raised.
At one point in the film, Noah and Allie row through a lake completely filled with swans, but the scene was almost birdless because people were concerned that untrained animals would create chaos on the set. Cassavetes told VH1 in a 2014 interview that they decided to get a bunch of hatchlings and raise them on the lake so they were comfortable in and familiar with the area.
Man, this is like a multi-month project here.
Yeah.
That's a lot. That's a lot of birds.
How many hatchlings? Did they use CG to extend it a little bit, man?
There was definitely no CG ducks in there.
Right. I'm like, how did it
jeez.
Give me 2,000 hatchlings tomorrow.
So let's see. So Ryan Gosling built furniture as part of his preparation for the role of Noah. So the furniture that's featured in the late era young Noah is the stuff he built.
So he really built it.
Yeah, he built it. He spent he was like, I'm just gonna go to South Carolina and live in a barn for 2 months and build furniture and grow a beard. Apparently.
Hey, and it works.
It works. And I looked to check the pronunciation on his name, but of course it's been a little bit. So I assume we've been saying his name right, Nick Cassavetes.
I think that's right. Yeah.
But he wanted someone unknown and I quote, not handsome to portray Noah. So naturally he cast Ryan Gosling.
Ryan Gosling. Ryan Gosling, I mean, he was in Remember the Titans before this in 2002.
So this is really his true breakout role. But he was all over
because he was Mickey Mouse
film
Club.
and TV way before this. Yeah, he's been in the business since Mickey Mouse Club when he was like
I don't know.
7?
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
But yeah, he was not an unknown actor.
But I will say, like, not saying that Ryan Gosling's unattractive, obviously not. But at the time in Hollywood, if you think about like,
Well, James
that
Marsden
era,
would have been more what
Right.
they were looking for in terms of this is your attractive.
like Ryan Gosling has a almost acute attractiveness to him because he's got the smile and the eyes, but he doesn't have like the
rugged manliness.
manly, you know, like thing going on.
But it is one of those moments where you read stuff like that and you're like, man, how out of touch is Hollywood?
Yeah,
Like,
a lot.
How below the dirt am I if they're like, Ryan Gosling isn't attractive? Like, good Lord.
Steve is like, can I be in the Notebook? They're like, we don't have any parts for bridge trolls. I don't know. It's like, oh, come on.
So Britney Spears auditioned for the role of Allie
Oh, baby.
and was looking forward to
And
reuniting.
was soundly turned down.
but was looking forward to reuniting with her
Ryan
Mickey
Gosling,
Mouse Club co-star.
When did Crossroads come out?
I don't know.
Was that before or after this?
I don't know.
According to her, she was the second choice. I don't know how. But for
Rachel McAdams is a much better pick
Yes.
here.
for,
And
for actual truth, though. Sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
So her Britney Spears' audition footage was actually auctioned off on eBay.
Oh, gosh.
2021 for $1 million. Wow.
No.
Yes.
$1 million?
Apparently.
Which Saudi prince bought that?
I don't know. Oh God. Oh no, I don't want to think about that.
Why would you spend $1 million on Britney Spears? Or did her estate buy it? Like, why?
Maybe.
Who's buying this?
The estate
It's
just
money
like,
laundering.
We need to purchase this so it doesn't get out into the ether. There's some Saudi prince like, why can't I buy this?
Add to cart.
So final piece of trivia here: the pictures of older Allie and Noah through the years, like right at the end of the film, are actually the personal photos of Gina Rowlands and her husband, John Cassavetes, with James Garner's face photoshopped over. So not only did mom come in to play the role, she also supplied her photo albums.
Wow.
She's like, I got this.
Nick is like,
So-
Mom, the meatloaf
What I wish
and the albums.
they would have done, and it's not like, you know, it is what it is. But like, I don't think James Garner looks a lot like Ryan Gosling, and so when they start showing him throughout the years, it just looks like young James Garner from like the Rockford Files and stuff. And then it's like there's one picture, it's like he took a hard turn. 2 years later, it
that's
looks like
kind of
James Garner.
That's kind of like the meme of whenever you're going from Revenge of the Sith to New Hope. It's like, this is what 19 years on Tatooine
It
does to you.
does to you. Well, it is one of those things where, like, you got to remember, you know, it's the 50s, the 60s, the 70s. You
People
know,
were smoking
he was
a lot.
smoking. He's
Yeah.
outdoors. Like, yeah, you get rough.
Yeah, I almost wish they'd hired a third actor to play the in-between guy.
in-betweens? Yeah.
And then just have some random picture like, oh, okay. And then you have the younger James, like it evolves instead of it just being like this hard, like, man, there was must have been a car wreck and some plastic surgery that happened that year. I don't know.
I mean, this dude's had like the tragic lifestyle or life for forever here. So you don't know.
No, but that's not necessarily true because they get together at the end of the film or at the end of the young storyline.
It's still
And
tragic. He loses his best friend in the war.
Okay, so I will say that whole scene was the only scene in the whole film where I laughed.
Oh no, I went.
It's just so over the top.
Totally
It is.
forgot that had happened, and then when it did happen, I was like,
Because I was like, okay, clearly this director does not really know how to do war stories.
No.
He knows how to do love stories.
Yes.
Yeah.
And how to shoot it. Because I like whenever that scene happened, I was like, oh, okay, well, this is where this is going.
Yeah.
Like it was just ridiculous.
No, there's a few scenes in this movie that are like,
It didn't take me out of it.
No.
But it was just like, oh wow.
Again, I think too that's a product of the time because like we watched, I guess like Last Samurai. Like there's some stuff we've seen from like 03, 04.
Yeah.
Where like there'll just be a random scene and you're like, this is not how they would shoot that today.
Yeah.
Because I have this problem where like I think of anything like post 2000 as like modern, right? Like even though that's like.
Post 2010 now is
Yeah,
modern.
now it's like that. But like in my head, I still think of like anything after 2000s like should be shot modern. And then like, yeah, Last Samurai, you got all the slow mo and like that. And I'm like, oh, this is weird. And then same thing like with the war scene. There's just a few stuff that's like I feel like this worked in like 03,
Yeah, it was
04.
fine.
it was
People
what
were
was
like,
expected
this
of the
rules.
time. Yeah.
That now we're like, ooh.
Yeah.
Not quite there. Not quite. So let's talk about the ending.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just because one, I don't want to forget to tell my story, and also I want to hear just
Thoughts
how
on the
badly Andrew blubbered about.
Well, okay, no. So
Terminator.
this was one of those things where, like, after they like, obviously at this point everyone knows that it's both of them, and she has dementia. She can't remember, so he's reading her the story. That's really sweet and everything. And then they have the little, they're dancing at the end, like in her little her apartment
her
room or whatever,
ward or whatever. Yeah.
And I was like, this is like, all right, we're going to zoom out. We're going to have post credits.
Right.
And then that's it. And then I was like, oh no, she's having an episode. And then like in my mind, I'm like, I know that the movie's going to end very, very soon.
Yeah.
Right.
So like in my mind, I'm like, oh, she's going to die.
Or he's going to die.
Or he's going to die.
I thought
because he just had like the episode.
He just got out of the hospital.
Yeah, so I'm just like, oh, this is not where I expected this to go. I expected a nice happy ending, and that's
tied
it.
off with a bow.
And it's still a happy ending.
It is,
but it's definitely one of those kind of masked in. Oh, this is incredibly sad.
Yeah,
and it was one of those kind of moments where like in the moment I was like, oh, this is really sad, but then like I thought about it, I'm like, oh, that's really sweet, and then like just downhill from there. Yeah.
So to be specific, to put a name on what we're talking about, because we're past the spoiler wall, it's like he goes to see her in the new whatever, like memory ward or wherever she's at. And then he's had some episodes with health run-ins, and so he sneaks down there. The orderly lady like lets him. Basically.
I love her little interaction with him when she's like, "You don't need to go visit her. Now look, I'm gonna go get a cup of coffee,
and I'm not gonna
be back."
And then he looks down,
leaves, and he looks out the cup sitting there, and he like picks up and looks at it, and it looks like what?
It's like a warm, fresh cup of coffee.
Absolutely, that sequence cracked me up because I did not remember it being like that kind of moment, but it's such a good little story beat in the middle of everything.
Yeah, but then he lays down in the bed with her. They have like a moment, and then they both pass away in their sleep that night. Right?
Yeah.
I didn't cry at that part. I thought it was touching.
Yeah,
but like it was almost.
It was literally the credits were rolling,
and it was just
like
catching up with
you. It kind of like caught up with me. I'm like, oh no, like.
So the first time I saw this film was after it had been out in theaters, and you could rent it on DVD or what. Yeah, DVDs were the thing in 2004. Yeah, 2005, whenever. So my college roommate Taylor, who listens to the show, thanks Taylor. Big shout out.
Big shout out to Taylor.
Yeah. He decided he was going to go and rent this film.
Why not?
Because
that's what this is, red-blooded, college.
But see, his idea here is, this is what all the women talk about. So we got to find out what this is about.
I mean, that's actually fair.
This is actual research
intel.
Here. Yeah.
Okay.
So we're in the dorm room, and he's sitting there watching the movie, and it's like a dorm room's only like a 10 by 10 box. You can only be so far from the TV. So it's like I'm like in on my desk, on the computer. Like, I guess I'm also watching this movie. I don't get a choice. So I watched it. It's one of those things where like you keep looking over the shoulder. Finally, you just stand there watching
you're just
it.
Like, all right, I'm here. Yeah.
So the movie ended, and it cuts to the geese flying over the lake after they presumably pass away in the bed. And Taylor's like, "What? Did they die? You can't just cut to this flying eagles bull." And I was like, "Taylor, those are geese." He's like, "Oh, I don't care. This is." And he stormed out of the door, like just busted out of the room, stormed down the hall.
I mean, it definitely was like you can see it coming, but at the same time, like I was like, oh, they're gonna have like their their little moment when they're dancing, and then that's it. And it's gonna be nice and sweet. And then I was like, oh no, this is not where I expected this to go. And I thought it was really well done.
Yeah. All the dementia stuff is really hard to watch.
It is. It's very difficult.
It is. And I don't know that's why my wife didn't watch it, but her family has a history of some dementia stuff.
My grandmother passed away from. I remember we used to visit her in the nurse. I think she was in there for like 4 years, and within like the first 6 months, she didn't know who I was, kind of thing.
Right.
So like that's hard. Yeah. And, like she would identify my sister as my mother because they look very similar for that age, but in her mind that was how old my mother should be, kind of thing. Yeah. Right. So stuff like that when like the family comes up and they haven't really dropped the shoe of who is who here. Yeah. But the family comes up and then she's like, "Well, I'm gonna go lay down." "Oh, okay." And then they talk, "Well, how is she today?"
Yeah, because I mean, like at that point in the story, it could be that she still married the rich guy, and that was her, like her family or just his family.
And he's just
he's just like
that'd be creepy as all get out.
Yeah, it'd be really weird.
I would no.
But yeah, like it's definitely like
the way that he like forces the date at the start is bad enough to begin with. But yeah, so moving away from the ending, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, well,
it'll still come back up. I'm sure.
I'm sure. But I really liked just kind of the storyline of like him, essentially like definitely back then, you go to war and you come back and like you don't like these kids don't have anything to like build off of. It's not like they have any money.
Right.
There's a really small town that apparently has a great high percentage of summer flings.
Apparently, it's a summer fling place. This is where these rich families go to spend the summer and bang the poor dudes and then go home.
And then go home.
And then go off to college in New York.
As one is wanting to do.
Yeah, totally.
I want to read just some of my random musings that I wrote down.
Right, go for it.
Okay. Cue awkward Southern dinner with rich people. I wrote that when they got to the little
I love that
dinner
one.
with everybody.
Yeah.
And it was just like, again, a lot of this movie is really good, but it's like so melodramatic and like this is the most stereotypical. So you don't have any prospects, and then I wrote the nuts on these kids to have an open water shirt off makeout session in a pond connected to her parents' house right after this dinner. Like, what are we doing?
Well, I think that
when you're a teenager, the hormones are raging.
I guess the mom and dad are just on the end of this, like little edge of the bank
like,
watching them. Yeah, we gotta stop this, huh?
That's a problem right there.
I wrote the house from the Munsters is where they're going to try to bop for the first time, and that was before I knew he was going to fix the house.
Yeah, he's going to try and fix the house. Yeah,
which I thought that whole sequence where they go into the house and they're talking about possibly having sex for the first time in the piano scene.
Yeah.
All that was great, and then later you get that awesome payoff where he's fixed this house up because he has the conversation with her of like, I'm going to fix this up. She's like, well, shouldn't I get a say in that? And he's like, what would you like?
What would you like? Yeah,
and then he makes it exactly to her specifications. She comes in and she's having the dinner with him, and she looks over at the piano and says something. He's like, "That's the piano," and she goes, "Oh," and that like, "Oh," and like, that was a great. I laughed out loud at that one.
Yeah.
What is the 17-year-old's curfew in the 40s? Because these two are pushing it to 2 a.m. on like multiple nights. And I'm like, my curfew was like 10 p.m. This is the 40s. Are they like, just have fun?
Well, they didn't really, they had watches.
They didn't have watches. Andrew, come on now.
Yeah,
come on now. Back it up.
James Marsden, Hollywood's favorite guy to root against. Everything this guy's in, you're always like, I hope he doesn't end up with the girl. X-Men, you don't want him to have Jean Grey. You want Wolverine to have Jean Grey. Superman, he's dating Lois Lane. You're like, get out of here. She's obviously going back to Superman, you dingus. I've seen him in like 8 different movies, and he's always the dude who's never a bad guy.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. Cyclops.
He's just living his life.
Whatever his character was in Superman Returns, all the other ones, he's a nice dude.
Yeah, like
it's just you're like, get out of the way of the main character.
In this one, I was like, oh, I know exactly where this is going. And I feel bad for him because he just seemed like a genuine guy.
He's just a good dude, yeah.
I do
He just
think
happens to be rich.
his reaction was a little bit unrealistic. It was almost too
subdued, yeah.
Too subdued of like, he's like, I got 3 options. I shoot this man. I like whatever, and none of them lead to you. So whatever you want to do to be happy. I'm like, this guy in the 40s would have been like, nah, listen, hell. Let's see here.
Which I did like the bit where there's the news article about him rebuilding the house, and it's a photo.
Oh
and someone else holds up the thing about, oh look, you're in the paper, and like she flips to the bottom part, and they're just
passes out.
Straight
that
down.
was great.
Yeah,
that was great.
While her mother is like, oh no.
Well, and I think her mother was, because obviously she was like the initial villain of like the relationship.
I do like that they kind of curved it back to where it's like, we understand. She's not just being like the mean mom because we needed a mean mom for this scenario.
And the thing I like about it too, that whole conversation where she shows him like obviously the fling that she had, and he's like,
I didn't expect that.
I may have been happy with him, but I wouldn't have been secure. And then like at the end, she was like, you need to make the choice for yourself, and you need to make the right choice. And what she's saying is like, you need to make the choice that's going to make you happy, not the one that's going to make you secure.
Also, here's 365 letters that I saved in a bundle.
Yeah, which is also crazy. It's like, I intercepted all your mail and then carefully stored and sorted and rubber banded it.
That's a pretty common trope, I think, with this.
I think back then,
Yeah.
I guess.
Well, too, like, I love that she has this just crate of letters. She's sitting on the porch. She's like, I see you got my letters finally. I was like, they should have cut to her reading through them, and it just cuts to nighttime, and she's like halfway through the pile. And it's just like, we'll revisit after you. You want to respond to any of these?
I got a mailbox out here.
Yeah, I think the 1,000 duck boat ride was a power play. Like, whoa, what a move, you know?
Dude's like, yeah, that guy's, like working the stock market. He's going to have money and everything. But check out these ducks.
He ain't got 1,000 ducks.
I mean, no, to be fair, that was a very pretty scene.
Yeah.
Like going through like the mangroves and stuff. And then you have, obviously all the ducks.
It's like, this could be your life if you, just live down here.
Could be every day. I've got a corner room where you have all your paints and it looks out over the ducks.
So just like James Marsden, whatever his character's name was, I can't remember.
So dumb.
Martha, the war widow. Man, I felt so
bad for her.
I kind of hoped she and James Marsden would get together. Yeah. I was hoping he would come over to the house and she'd be there and he'd be like, "What's your whole deal?" And she's like, "I don't know, sailor." And he's like, "Hey," and they get in the car and they're happy. When Rachel McAdams invites Martha in, I was dying. I was like going, "Oh, this is the most." Ryan Gosling, he's in the doorway and he like kind of walks up and I'm like, "Just act like you're not home. What are you doing?" And he answers the door and she's like, "Is she in there?" And he's like, he just kind of shakes his head.
Yeah.
And then she's like, "I'd like to meet her. Can I come in?" And he just shakes his head like,
"No, absolutely not."
Like, "No, please don't." And then Rachel McAdams like, "Come on in, we're making pancakes." And I'm like, "Oh no." Then it cuts to nighttime and you're like, wait, so they had breakfast, lunch, and dinner together? Just talking the whole day?
Oh man, like it's one of those where like it's such a weird like power play.
Yeah, I know. Rachel McAdams is like, "I got him. Come on in. Check out these pancakes.
I'm going to invite you in wearing nothing but this bedspread."
Least I can do is give you some pancakes for your consolation prize. Hit the brick, sister. So then this lady leaves, right? And she's out there talking around Gaza. I thought her and James Marsden both were a little bit unrealistic. She was like,
a little bit.
"She's amazing.
Well,
you made the right choice."
They at least set it up with her.
Yes.
That, he was like, I still love this girl.
She could tell that he wasn't all there when he and Martha were together.
Well, and I do like that her thought process on it is like, "Thank you. You've shown me that, what I had with my husband can't exist again.
Yeah.
So I need to keep looking for my guy."
Go find.
You still feel absolutely terrible.
I felt terrible for her.
Get out there and go find you that Lon. That was his name. That's James Marsden's character's name. Lon.
Oh, Lon. Yeah.
Hammond.
I remember it being weird.
Terrible name.
Yeah. I wish Lon and her had gotten together so bad. I was like, "Martha and Lon, get up in there." This is just a random thing I wrote down. How much time did he spend setting up this paint studio? Because they go to bed. She wakes up. All the paints are out. The canvas.
He's got like all the arrows laid out. Like this dude's been doing like arts and crafts all night.
Yeah. Like he didn't go to bed. Like she went to sleep and he's like, "Oh God, I got so much work." Because I was like, that wasn't in that room before. And then it's like, did he have all this in like an attic or in a storage?
He just brought it out.
A closet.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, but I was like, it was all. That was a great move, though. I was like, oh, and then she starts painting naked. I'm like, this is the dream. You got 1,000 duck pond out here. You can paint naked, whatever. Then mom shows up, and you're like, boo.
Oh man. Yeah, it's a roller coaster.
It really is, but I genuinely really enjoyed this film.
So the one time I cried, I'll say this, I teared up, was when they're arguing by the car and she's about to leave, and that's when the manager, where he's
like at 2:00 in the morning.
No, this is during the day. I think where she's picking if she's going to go talk
post World War II.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And he's like, "This is what we do. We argue." He's like, "I want you. I want all of you. I want even the worst parts." And like I was like. It just hit me all of a sudden.
I think that whole section of dialogue for him was improvised.
Oh, really? It was good.
That was good.
Yeah, that's the part that hit me. That's the one that got me.
So I just saw that as I was looking through the duck thing.
For the duck thing,
you did?
yeah. The swans.
Yeah.
These people are...
I don't know.
Those are ducks.
That's a weird article.
But there was it would have been even more of a power move. It's like, there's 1,000 swans. Can you think about how much money there are in swans on this lake? Like, good Lord.
What's a swan go for nowadays?
I don't
know. Do we know?
Probably a lot.
More than a duck, right?
Probably more than a
duck. In theory.
So the moment when they're like young, like pre-World War II, and he just like lays down in the middle of the road.
Yeah.
So my wife was still engaged at that point in the film, and she was like, "Oh gosh, this was such a problem in Chelsea, where I grew up, because these teenagers would try to imitate this and they get hit by a car.
Oh my! I'm not trying to laugh at that, but
I was reminded that this was actually like a thing that like came up like USA Today, where it's like you need to talk to your sons and daughters about not laying in the middle of the road
and trying to recreate
they don't live in a town that only has 4 cars pre World War II, you know,
right after midnight or whatever. Yeah.
Wow. So I kind of going back to the like when they were teenagers and they were kind of like acting like they were teenagers, or just kind of like I'll say the stilted kind of like line delivery.
Yeah.
Like it didn't bother me too much.
No. I had the moment was like I was trying to figure out
are they bad acting or are they acting bad?
Or are they acting like a perfectly bad teenager?
See, if I had read the trivia that said they did those parts first and they had no chemistry, and then the later part was when they had hashed out, then I'd be like, oh, okay, that's why the lines were just weird and stilted. But now it's like, were they just trying to not be like, I have the incredible hots for you right now and I need to act like I don't want to date you. And I can't. It's so hard. Rachel's like, I can't do it. Look at him.
Well, because when they do have the hots for each other as teenagers and they're like making out in the street in broad daylight and stuff, I was like, this is believable.
That's pretty much what.
Right. It's like if I went down the sidewalk and Gosling was right there. Yeah, that's what I'd do too.
Yeah, I mean, heck yeah. Him and Rachel McAdams. 2 scoops, please. Yeah.
Yeah, but they really do like they do have really good chemistry in this. Yeah. So I'm glad that the director just sat them down and just was like, you guys need to come to Jesus.
That's it. We're firing Rachel. Bring it in Brittany. What a wild movie that would have been.
Oh, baby.
So we haven't talked about it much, but the music, I think some of the period pieces hit really well, like what we use for our ad break.
Yeah. I mean, any kind of big band swing music is
big bop. Yeah. But like most of the rest of the stuff just feels
it's kind of samey,
generic and expected.
Yeah, like you kind of listen to like the first like main title track, and then everything else is just kind of just an elaboration on that,
improvisation off of that.
Yeah, and it's fine. Like it definitely
doesn't disserve it. It's just like, man, what if this movie had a killer soundtrack? It's kind of like
John Williams is in there setting his piano on fire
as they're like arguing. But Duel of the Fates.
Actually, actual Duel of the Fates moment. Like, what do you want?
The ducks are flying.
It's like a Michael Bay movie. Yeah. Like he's like rotating around Ryan Gosling.
The rotate lift camera move. Yeah.
So what we're saying is if Michael Bay had directed it and John Williams had scored it, this movie would be over the top.
This would be some real good material for a Mystery Science Theater 3000 at that point.
Yeah.
Just insane stuff happening. So it does sound like we're kind of winding down here. I wasn't sure if there's any final points people wanted to get in here before we
Not really. I mean, I really like the movie.
Yeah. Would you rewatch it?
Yeah, there's the final question.
That's a hard question
Andrew's
because
like, I have so many choices, but I want to cry.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that, but it's really more on the lines of I think I've seen it once, and I think that's enough.
I agree. Yeah.
Not because like I mean I thought it was very enjoyable.
It wasn't
bad. It was a good
no.
story, but it's definitely one of those where like my wife would like have to want to watch it and be like, oh yeah, we can throw it on.
Maybe in like 5 years from now.
Yeah.
When you've had time for some of the small moments to kind of fade out of your memory, and then it's like, oh, we should watch that.
Yeah.
And then some of those like the bit with the coffee cup hits a little better when it's like, oh yeah, that does happen here.
Yeah. But and definitely not. I would like. You know, I'm not going to go actively rewatch this.
I'm not going to go search it out. Yeah, that's about where I am.
Yeah, I think we're all on the same page there.
Yeah.
It's almost like it's a podcast of 3 dudes.
Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, like, I love watching romance.
Oh, I was going to say, is this where Andrew tells us he's not a dude?
No,
here it is, guys. No,
we're
I think it's one of those things, though, where this movie, I think if it brought something different to the table, like just a twist or something, I would be down to watch it again.
More, yeah.
But like it's one of those movies to me, once you've seen it, you kind of know what it is.
Yeah, it's just kind of exactly what it is.
Which is fine. Like there's nothing wrong with that. Like I remember when we were growing up, my cousin Dana watched Steel Magnolias like 800 times one summer. Just had the VHS. Whoa. Just every day it was playing that and Fried Green Tomatoes. Just bang, bang, back and forth. And like
at least fried green tomatoes is really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. It's like one of those things where I could see someone really rewatching this because it's almost comfort food.
A little bit.
It's kind of too sad to be comfort food. I don't know. It's like
that's the thing.
It's an easy watch.
But if you're like ready to sit down with like a pint of ice cream, you had that kind of day.
Right.
Maybe this is your maybe I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. I don't even think I would count this as a sad ending. Like,
no, it's bittersweet.
It's bittersweet, but like at the end, they're still together.
Well, and it's also heavily implied they had like a full and fulfilling life together.
Yeah.
Before this past year or whatever time with her having dementia.
Yeah.
But I mean, up to that point,
they had a real life,
and did all these things together.
I think it's where you're at in your headspace because, like, to me, this is a happy ending.
Yeah.
It's just you got a little bit of a bittersweet happy. It's not like and they lived happily ever after credits.
They ride into the sunset.
Right. Where'd we get this horse? Shut up and they just keep riding. Yeah.
James Carter. Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
But yeah, it's definitely one of those where I definitely think that it was a good ending. It's just a sad ending.
It is, to a degree.
Yeah,
All right. Well, speaking of
sorry, that's all I got.
Speaking of good endings, not sad endings, but good endings. Let's talk about the best way that you can support the show. That's for $1 a month.
Patreon.
Patreon.com/spoilersintendedpodcast. You can support the show for $1 a month, helps us pay those hosting fees, produce more content like this, and produce bonus content that you get guaranteed once a month. Plus access to our whole back catalog. Boys, tell them what we talk about.
I mean, right now, you can even listen to the ChatGPT Dear Abby section that we did this month for Romance Month.
We asked ChatGPT to give us like romance questions, and then we answered and gave the advice.
And it was bonkers. Probably the hardest I've laughed in a very long time.
We heard Andrew, that's for sure.
Yeah, but like my jaw hurt at the end of the end of the episode.
But, we also, like, coming up in March, we're going to have another Patreon Picks poll that you can vote in, and that'll be where you can pick a movie that we review, and then, patrons get early access to that. It hits the main feed for everybody else later. So be looking forward to that. There's a lot going on the Patreon. It's just $1 to get in there.
Yep.
And like I said, it really helps us keep making shows just like this.
Yeah.
But enough about the Patreon. Another great way to support the show is to follow us on socials. Leave us a review wherever you're listening now and share us with a friend.
Yep.
Until next time, I'm Steven.
I'm Andrew.
I'm Ryan.
And every spoiler was intended.